What's up, everybody? This is Kurt Dimer, and you're watching Aftershocks TV. Peace and love.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. So let's go ahead. Let's move on now to this has been a good episode so far. We're going to wrap things up here with our last question of the day. Okay, and this revolves around one of the most polarizing metal bands of all time, and that's the almighty Manowar. Okay, so I know Manowar. I've announced a tour. I believe a European tour they're doing this year, and I think they got next year, 2025. And they've got, I believe, a show in 2024 late this year in New York, I believe, correct?
Yeah, in New York. And they are one of those bands where they're like, I'm glad Manowar exists, because anybody who flies the flag for metal, as cheesy as it sounds, and death of us metal and we're the loudest band in the world and all that kind of crap, I just love that over the top stupidness. I mean, I'm a Kiss fan, so you can go figure. Kiss is Disney for adults, for fuck's sake. But I think they've got when you think about Manowar, just a couple of things here I'm just going to refer to that. They're obviously, everybody knows Joey DeMeo and like all the Conan the Barbarian look and all the the oiled up, greased up bodies and shit is kind of funny. But like the venue that they're playing, yeah, exactly. Wow. Like the venue that they're playing in New York, it's a 3,000 King's Theater in New York. I've never been, actually. I lived in New Jersey for 6 years, so surprising I haven't been. But it's a 3,000 seater venue, which they've sold out. They were, again, this is the Pure Machine, first only gig in the US. Hey, sold out. So how good is that? I don't know. But it's also the first gig in 10 years. And they're playing in November 2024, which is now 10 months away. But I know they're planning on a new album and a new tour, European tour for 25, I believe. So that's all. So they're basically doing like a kind of, this is their big PR, I guess,
warm-up show thing. Yeah.
Yeah, like their foundation, and get all the PR from that. But they're an interesting band. I was looking at something on Wikipedia. Again, Wikipedia knows everything, but they've sold 30 million albums worldwide. But really, I don't know about that. But it said it did. Maybe they're huge, and I know they're big in Eastern Europe and Greece and those type of places. So maybe they have. I really don't know. But if you look at what they're like, they played a gig, I think, in 2005. Remember, years off, and apparently it was like so many decibels, and it was literally the loudest band in the world at that point. So they're good from the PR perspective about pulling out the stunts and death of thoughts metal. And their latest song, which I listened to a week ago or so, was actually decent. It's actually quite a good.
I haven't heard it yet. Okay.
No, it's quite a good song with a killer guitar solo, like a killer fucking guitar solo. So I was going, man, I could put this on a little bit cheesy and kind of, stamping feet and raising hands and, singing the praises to metal and all that. But, they formed in 1980. For 2024, they're still going. So, they're polarizing, but I'm glad I'm not the biggest fan in the world, but I'm glad Manowar exists. And if I was in New York, I would probably go to that show just to see what it's all about, provided it's not, stupid money for the tickets. But yeah,
sure,
they're interesting. And, if we're going to finish the show, then fucking finish it on Manowar.
For some Manowar, man. Well, yeah, I'm one of those guys that I don't, because they are polarizing. Most people either love them or they hate them, right?
Right.
I'm not either. I like them. I do. I'm not saying I don't dislike. I actually, let's start from the beginning, right? 1980 Battle Hymns.
Sure.
That's a great record. I don't care what anyone says. It's and I didn't really know. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't know. Probably it was about 10 years ago that I discovered Battle Hymns, and I remember listening to. I used to have the Sirius XM. I don't do it anymore, but. It was, the guys from that metal show, Jim Florentine, I think he was a big metal fan. He played a song or two from Battle Hymns. I'm like, holy shit, that was like more like proto 70s intro, to metal stuff. And I think it's great. It's nothing like what they became after that. It was a little bit still with that 70s, proto stuff. And I was like, this is a great record. I got it on vinyl and everything. I went and bought it. I was like, this is a classic. I think it's a classic record. Now, after that, like I said, and I'm a big Ross the Boss fan.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, I love his solo stuff. I think he's just a very underrated guitarist. I think he's an excellent guitarist. I really do. Yeah. Now, I always love their guitar work. Manowar, obviously. Now, obviously, with the Scott Adams' vocal approach, Sorry, Eric Adams, and the visual style, and so this actually isn't that bad. If I look at this, you think this is bad? I'm like, all right, it's '80s, right? You figure '70s, '80s style stuff. Not my, not something I would wear, of course. But I'm gonna let's remove that though, and let's put up, a different one. Like you said, it's the oiled up stuff, man. They went from that, which, like I said, they used to have chest hair and, they're like just wild beasting. Okay, but when you're coming with this, now we have a problem.
Oh boy.
Obviously, this is no secret. Everyone knows, Manowar. Between Adams there and Joey DeMeo, man. The assless chaps that Joey DeMeo would walk around, the leather chaps, and the oiled up, like I said, if you want to walk out like a bunch of cavemen all hairy, and that's one thing. I think people have no problem with that. But this is just, look, even we're talking the 80s. Okay, we've seen all the glam stuff. Okay, I don't know why. It's just, to me, I guess the glam stuff, at least they have their clothes on most of the time. This is just, man.
Yeah.
I
remember those because they used to often be on the front of Kerrang magazine. Like, they were kind of pretty much Kerrang stalwarts for many years, and they were often on, even though they were never a huge band, they were good for press and whatever. But I don't even know, and I've got to check out some I guess recent YouTube clips. So they haven't released an album since 2012, I think. So I don't even know if they've been touring. I'm guessing they have, maybe overseas, where they have a bigger fan base. But I don't know what they look like live. I got to check out. Not that look. I don't know what if, like, in New York.
I got to take this down.
Yeah, please. I hope they're not going to look like that in New York. But God bless Manowar, and like they could not believe the shit they come out with, but it doesn't matter because they make it believable. And that's all that matters.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Like, just going back to, like you said, what they sing about. Yeah, I know it's obviously straight up corny stuff, but I do, the love and respect for it, just this positive metal, this metal, that metal, that. Yeah, it's very unique. It's very different, and it's very positive. And like, I'll be honest with you, I'm sure you go to that show, and you got a great crowd of a bunch of happy people. You're not going to like a pissed off metal show. I kind of, that's what I like about that old metal. Even like when I remember I went to see Raven with Bob about a handful of years ago.
Yeah,
as we know, Raven, yes, so do I. They're playing with Vicious Rumors. Obviously, that's another tour coming up. And it was one of the most positive and fun shows in terms of the people in the crowd. Everybody was in a good mood. People were like just coming up to you and talking to you. Oh, hey, what band is that shirt? Just talk about whatever band shirt you had. I talked to like 5 different people in there. Just randomly. Everybody, everyone was like, all middle-aged guys in their 50s and, 60s and stuff. And it was such a good time, man. I had a great time just with the crowd, let alone the show itself was great. Yeah. But the people in the crowd, it was a great crowd. And that's the thing about Manowar. Like I said, you can get on it. I know it's corny and cheesy, but it's fun. And like you said, they're just waving this flag. They came with something pretty unique. It's definitely over the top. We all know that. But, and I like I said, I like Battle of Hymns. I liked some of the, I like to Blow Up Your Speakers. I love that song.
When did they say Death of Post-Metal? When I don't know the year they said that, and what did they mean by it? Like, who were they talking about? Poison, Striper? Like, what was
I'm sure it's
who
probably
attacking,
I'm sure it's that because I'm assuming it's the Poisons and when all the MTV videos are out, I'm sure that's what it was about. But then again, like I said, they did You Blow Up Your Speakers. That was right in that realm too. That video was the same kind of concept and same idea and same presentation. It wasn't that much different. But I like Manowar on a song by song basis. I'm not really, if I listen to them with an album, there's a lot of songs I don't like on certain albums, but I do always like at least 1 or 2 songs. The Gods Made Heavy Metal, that's a great tune.
Yeah, that's a good song.
It's got a good riffs and stuff. But one of the things, just quickly, and we'll get ready to wrap this up. You just brought up a good point about Manowar. It's like you said, they've only got one show they're doing here. I think the reason why they're so big and bigger than they probably would be is that mystique. They have built themselves a very interesting mystique because, they don't play often. So when they do, it's like, they could charge a fortune for the tickets and they'll sell out like they did in New York for next year, for the end of this year, excuse me. And they also, they don't do interviews. Right? They don't play often, and they don't do interviews. They've created a really good mystique that you have to admire. You got to give it to them.
But look at the venue capacity is 3,000 people. Now you might say, well, it's the only gig, but I mean, 99% of people that are going to that concert are going to be from New York, New Jersey, Connecticut,
Mm,
perhaps. So it's not like you're going to have like a third of the venue flying in from. Oh, you're going to have a number of people
mm,
flying in that are fans across the country. I get that part, but most of those are local. They're going to be like a local, goer, concert goers, like I was when I lived up there. So you got to give a tip of the hat the fact that they still sold 3,000 tickets. I mean,
mm.
that's not too shabby. And if
No,
they did a
it's good.
tour across the US, I mean, I'm not saying they're going to sell out 3,000 venues, but I think they're a band that could put in 1,000 seater pretty easy. I'm guessing. I don't know. I mean, I got to
Hmm.
look back on some stats, but they're not going to be in my top 50 even bands of all time. But I don't want them to go away either, because any band who's flying the flag for metal and rock, as cheesy it is, I don't care. Keep doing it.
I agree. No, I'm with you, man. I think and they're also they're from New York, so it's a hometown,
Yeah.
gig too as well. Even though I don't think they were really. I mean, I grew up in New York. I heard of them. I remember in the '80s, but I didn't
Mm.
see them anywhere. The videos anywhere. I didn't hear them on the radio. So it wasn't like they were in my face all the time, and it was like, oh, Manowar. Not really. That's what I'm saying. They've had this mystique that you gotta, it's kind of
Yeah.
kept them. I think it kept them from getting too, like you said, they didn't get
Overexposed.
overplayed and overexposed. Exactly, like
Yep.
a lot of the hair metal bands did.
Yep.
And so, like you were saying too, right? They were able to last this long through the '90s because they played overseas. They toured in Europe, like we were talking about in our last episode about a lot of those hair metal bands that didn't play overseas. They didn't play in Europe,
That's
and
right. They
so when
didn't.
grunge
Nope.
came in, they were destroyed. But Manowar did, and they always had that fan base there, and they still. That's what's obviously kept them
And it's
rolling to
44
today.
years later, and
Hmm.
they're still playing, and they just sold out 3,000 seats in New York. So, got to give credit for that.
Got to give it to them. Yeah, like I said, you're right. I think the metal world is much better with them around. I
Fuck
do.
yeah.
I agree. I agree with that.
Yep.
Great. All right, man, Tom. Well, so we'll get ready to wrap this up. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Anything you want to talk about? Anything real quick before we get ready to wrap this one up here?
I think one of the next segments we could jump in again. Matt and I always have like kind of a flow of sorts. We do a research, and we're not just Matt and I like to put some stats and facts behind what we're
Yes.
talking about. Obviously, a lot of it's from memory, but we'll do some. I'll jump online and I get memory refresh, or I'll learn something, whatever. But one of the things that we didn't get to tonight just is about the sheer number of tours that are being announced in the
Oh,
last couple of
yes. Yeah, get into that. Yeah.
couple of days. And just for a moment or two, and I wrote it down here, is that again, whether you like them or not is irrelevant. I'm just saying what's been announced is Ace Frehley, Stephen Piercy, Striper doing an acoustic show, Vicious Rumors you mentioned, and Raven, Uriah Heep and Saxon has just been announced, so they're not coming to Charlotte, motherfuckers. Lita Ford, they're playing in Charlotte near me, but the tickets are $60. So nope, I ain't paying $60 to see Lita.
Lita
Sorry
Ford?
about that. Nope,
Yeah.
not happening.
I wouldn't either.
Cal Decapitation and Carnivex, I would pay to see that. I saw Cal Decap last year, and Amanda Marth and Cannibal Corpse, and I saw both of those actually.
That's a huge show. Wow.
That's a huge show. I mean, they're like 2,000 and 3,000 seats right there. So that's just touching on what I've seen, and maybe there's some tours announced even since. So the spring kind of summer season is getting up there. So we urge everybody, as I do, I sing my own song, is that get out there and see those bands, because you don't know when
Yeah.
these bands are going to just stop. Look at Sepultura. We spoke about that a couple of weeks ago. They literally just said, we're done. I was going, fuck. And I saw those last year. I didn't know for 1 minute. I was looking at, their
Yeah.
second final leg of ever touring. So it's great to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. That Stephen Piercy, show. I wished, like I was telling you, well, bands like that, especially '80s bands, you don't really see them up here in the Bay Area too much. They just didn't do that well, except for the thrash bands. This
Sure.
is all thrash land. But I would love to see that Out of the Cellar, show. I mean, I'm a big Rat fan. I
Great
hope
band.
there's more dates. I doubt they're gonna play up here. There's no point in it. But I remember first seeing him. I remember seeing. It's funny because it's funny how these bands are now. Once the nostalgic period kicked in about 2008 to 10ish, right? When that really
Yep.
started, all the '80s bands started getting big again. I remember seeing Stephen Piercy. I think it was 2002 or three when I moved to LA, and I was working in the music business. I was doing some promotional stuff for Rob Zombie's movie, The House of a Thousand Corpse. And I remember meeting. There used to be this venue called the Key Club in Hollywood, right by the Whiskey. It was right, on the same block there. where all the rainbow is and everything, right next to the rainbow.
Yeah.
And I remember meeting it was one of the promoters or something who was putting on this Piercy show. And I gave her some gear stuff that I had from Zombies thing. And then she gave me free tickets. She's like, "Oh, I got, if I can get you on the guest list for Stephen Piercy." I was like, "Yeah, I'll check him out. Absolutely."
Yeah.
I hadn't really thought, at that point in time, I wasn't really thinking about Rat or anything, I mean, I used to listen to him, but it was like, that'd be interesting. I wonder what this show is like. And I remember, it was them and Bang Tango. And I remember between the two sets, there was this thing. And this is when it looked so pathetic back then, but it's funny how it is now, because back then it was like really a bunch of people, maybe in the 40s, and it was like they were kind of hanging on to the glory years, the fans. There wasn't a great energy in the venue either. I was surprised being in LA. The energy was kind of low, but during the middle, between, like I said, both bands, during the break, they had this thing where it was like win a date with like one of these with these old like groupies. So I mean, yeah, it was kind of ridiculous. It was like 10 groupies, and one or two of them were on. I remember I recognized the name or the face. They were on the VH1 had this thing one time. It was like a documentary sort of show thing on groupies on the Sunset Strip for all those bands. So they had a bunch of the musicians came and talked about how this groupie, it might have been his ex-girlfriend or something, that they were really they were very pivotal in those bands being successful because they'd let them live with them and they would feed them and they would take care of them.
Yeah.
And so it was really a cool little show they had on it. And this one girl that was on it, she was kind of all beat up and kind of all methed out and stuff, you could tell, but she was on there, and then she was at this thing, this whole win a date with whatever, and it was like 10 of them. I got to say, I was laughing like, this is pathetic, man. It was bad, but then it's funny because now if you go to a Rat show or Stephen Piercy show, man, the energy is unbelievable, but back then, around 20 years ago, nobody still I mean, not only the 90s, but even the early 2000s, no one wanted to do anything to do with this stuff. And so there was low energy. It just wasn't, it was kind of disappointing, but now I'd want to go see that now, especially that album. I love that album, and that would be great if they played up here. They're not going to, and then Uriah Heep Saxon. Oh man.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm a huge Rat fan. I love, Piercy's solo stuff. I did all the stuff he did with Vertex and going back and his industrial, and arcade and all that kind of shit. I'm a huge fan. I've got everything I think he's ever done.
Great voice, I love him.
Yeah, I love his voice. He's got that grit, that growl, and he still tries to look like he was 25. I get it. That goes back to what rock stars do. They don't know what else to do. And I saw it Rat probably 5 years ago in Jersey, probably 1,000-seater venue, and it was packed. It was full. And it was obviously, it wasn't the original Rat. They only had two. They had one, Crucher, or whatever you pronounce it, and obviously Stephen, and that was it. But great concert, great venue. They got this. I'd like to see the Out of the Cellar, because that's one of the best rock records of the 80s, if not of all time. If you just put it up to what it represented for the time, it's with the Bow Hill production and the playing and the songs. It's a phenomenal record. It's absolutely phenomenal. I love that band. We said this before. Winger and Rat are my two go-tos.
That's my two too, man. That was it for me.
Favorites.
Yep, those are my two as well, man. It's pretty funny. Yeah. And just real quickly, I want to mention one more tour that just popped up today. The Obsessed, Wino, the great Wino, the Obsessed is touring.
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, the Obsessed, Howling Giant, and Gozu. I interviewed all three of those bands on Heavy Galaxy last year. But yes, Howling Giant's got actually the bassist in Howling Giant is the son of Peter Baltus from Anthrax. Accepts. Yeah. Sebastian Baltus, cool dude, man. Great, really good guy. Yeah, and then Gozu is a cool, band from Boston that's on Metal Blade Records. Yep. So that's another great one. Unfortunately, again, not playing up here. It's amazing, man. They don't play up here anymore, dude. I'm telling you. I think also because a lot of during the pandemic, just really quick, but during the pandemic, a lot of venues were requiring, vaccination things and all that stuff up here, between up here in Seattle. And so a lot of the bands, they don't want to come up here because of that. I know Wino, he canceled the Obsessed show in San Francisco because of that. So that's probably one of the reasons. But yeah, that's a great tour. So if they're coming to your town, those three bands, another great one. Great tours coming up. This is a time, right? This is a time when all these tours are being announced for the spring and the summer. So yeah, save your money, everybody, and get ready to go out there and spend some money. And hopefully it's not at a Live Nation venue is what I'm hoping, right?
Which it probably will be, though.
It probably will be, though, of course. Yeah, all right, Tom, it's been great. Great, talking again, as we always do. And thanks, everybody, for listening and watching for another episode here of Aftershocks TV for the week. And we'll see everyone next week.
See you next time.
Take care.